Coming to you from an entrenched barricade deep in the heart of central North Carolina. Masculine Journey After Hours. A time to go deeper and be more transparent on the topic covered on this week's broadcast. So sit back and join us on this adventure. The Masculine Journey After Hours starts here now.
Welcome to Masculine Journey After Hours. We are talking about the topic of opening our eyes, God opening our eyes to warfare, to spiritual warfare. And so we've been kind of kicking that around on the regular show, and we're going to go a little bit deeper into this. But Danny, before I go and forget about you for half the show, welcome to the show with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're glad to have you again. We're looking forward to getting you back in studio when all the stars align and all that stuff, and we get you back in here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that myself.
Yeah, and then we can pick on you in person instead of over the phone.
Yeah, I can more amply defend myself because I can see what's coming.
You can, yeah. But we're going to continue. But Andy, you have the first clip of this show. Do you want to set it up or talk about it?
Yeah, so Sam started last show just talking about a clip that he saw in one of his first boot camps, I guess. Mine was probably first, second, maybe third, I don't know. But it made an impression on me early on in my boot camp experience, because here I was a guy that was really looking, just to get his marriage back, and really I was being exposed to a lot through this whole masculine journey and Wild at Heart and the spiritual warfare. I wanted to get my wife back. Wasn't really interested in, it wasn't that I wasn't interested, it just wasn't at the top of the list.
Wasn't your priority.
It wasn't a priority. Right
There's
then.
always a sneaky priority that gets a guy to a boot camp.
Yeah,
I mean, we can all admit to that.
Yeah. If you had everything together, you probably wouldn't come,
and probably wouldn't be telling the truth.
That's right. But anyway, I had kind of tapped out. I knew that there was a spiritual war that we were in. I used to put on the full armor of God. Didn't use it that effectively. Probably a lot of it was because of lack of understanding and identity in who I was as a son and being able to fight from that. But I was weak, and I didn't really want to engage there per se. But it began to show me. This clip is from the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and the King Theoden does not want to engage in war. He wants to keep his people safe. And you'll hear the dialogue here, and there's a line that speaks to it all, and it means everything. And it really is what brought me back and drew me back into realizing, there is an option of whether we choose to fight or not.
So here we go.
They had no warning. They were unarmed. Now the wild men are moving through the Westfold, burning as they go. Rick Cotton Tree.
Where is Mama?
This is but a taste of the terror that Saruman will unleash. All the more potent, for he is driven now by fear of Sauron. Ride out and meet him head on. Draw him away from your women and children. You must fight.
You have 2,000 good men riding north as we speak. Aemir is loyal to you. His men will return and fight for their king.
They will be 300 leagues from here by now. Aemir cannot help us. I know what it is you want of me, but I will not bring further death to my people. I will not risk open war.
Open war is upon you, whether you would risk it or not.
So yeah, there, it says it all right there. And you do have a choice of whether you want to fight or not. I mean, they then had that choice. And he made the wrong choice, actually, in the movie. But I want to make the right choice because, the open war is going to continue. You're still going to be taken out. I might as well fight in this thing. And, we were built for fighting. That's the whole idea of the masculine heart. So why not enter into what God has called me to do as a man? I mean, it's like sitting back and being passive is not working. And anything that I want in life through desire that he gives us has to be fought for. That's one of the key things that you learn about in the core desires is you have to fight for these things. And again, this, I don't know, this culture that we live in, I don't think it's expressed enough in masculine circles that it is a requirement, particularly in the kingdom of God, that it is a requirement for us to engage in battle. It's who we're called to be. We're being less of who we are as people if we don't step into that, or as men. So
absolutely. That is the case. When I was thinking back about, the times that growing up that you succumb to a bully, were beating up on you or embarrassing
money.
You, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And every time that happens, you feel lower and lower and lower, and you hide more. But just the one time you stand up, it doesn't matter if you get your brains beat out, a little bit. If if he really wins the fight, but you did something about standing against it.
That's right.
Right, and you can at least feel better about that, and you start to get some of your hope back. You start to get some of your purpose back. Yeah. And so when I look at it with that same clip, it was like, am I just going to sit there and let myself get beat up, or am I at least going to rise up and do everything I can? And and with God on my side, how am I going to lose?
Yeah. Kind of like the open range clip. You're men, ain't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Step in and be a man.
There's an aspect of that clip too that does not get portrayed, and that is there's kind of a I wished I knew the name of the theory, but it's basically who's going to get shot first, right? If there's a bad guy and there's one person that steps up against the bad guy with a gun, he's probably going to get shot. But if there's 20 guys that step up together, chances are the bad guy's going to get taken out, right? Somebody might get shot, but the bad guy's going to get taken out. And there is that aspect of it that Theoden has these guys saying, look, you got us, you got these other people, you're not doing it alone. We're not asking you to step out there by yourself. We're just asking you to think through this very carefully, and that is, you can choose whether you fight or not. You cannot choose whether or not the enemy is going to come after you. That's Christianity.
Yep.
We don't get to choose whether the enemy's coming or not. He's here. Revelation 12 makes it very, very clear. Ezekiel makes it very, very clear that when Satan loses the battle in heaven and is cast down to the earth, the first thing that we read about is he goes to make war on humanity. He goes to make war on the offspring of the woman. And that's where we live, unfortunately. But here's the other aspect of God opened my eyes many, many years ago as I was, I guess, preparing for probably doing the Warfare Talk at a boot camp. That the reason we are here is for that God literally says to Satan, and you'll read in the New Testament where God will parade in front of Satan this great procession of saints, and it will basically heap burning coals upon Satan's head, and it will make him even more appalled with his own behavior, because he lived with God. He lived in heaven. He lived and saw the beauty of God and the strength of all the angels and all of those things, right? Was one of the greatest beings in heaven other than God himself. And yet he chose to rebel. And so God picks these lowly creatures, Sam, Darren, Andy, Jamie, all of us, who are going to live by faith. We've not been to heaven yet. We've not seen all of the things that Satan saw, and God uses us to fight that battle now and to basically say to Satan, sorry, you had your shot. And so when you realize that that's part of your calling, that's part of the purpose that you're here for, it changes your mind as to whether or not, I mean, yeah, there are still mornings I get up and I do not want to fight.
Yeah, I agree.
But I call that every day. I mean, seriously. But I don't have a choice. I mean, it's either get your head beat off, beat up, beat in, or fight. And sometimes you're still going to get beat up, but you still have to fight. And we've got a God that's willing to help us in that fight.
Darren, you're exactly right that we. Sounds like Robbie.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah. That was a tip of your hat to the NRB guy. Right?
Yeah, I'm channeling my inner Robbie. No, you're exactly right. We got to stand up, but the thing is, we can't be the Lone Ranger. Because it talks about in the story of Daniel. You were talking about it before the show, where an angel talks about the warfare, and it's not easy for even an angel.
Yeah.
If you want to tell a little bit more.
Well,
about
in
that.
Daniel chapter 10, Daniel himself, the great prophet, has his eyes opened up to spiritual warfare around him, because he's praying. He's asking God to help him. That they're in this really difficult time, and he's trying to interpret some dreams and trying to help his people. And God sends an angel to answer Daniel's prayers. But Daniel doesn't know that. He continues to pray every day for the next 21 days. Thinking, where is God? Why isn't he hearing me? What's wrong with me? Why does God not hear my voice? And the angel shows up out of breath, literally, and says, wait, Daniel, no, God heard your prayer the very first day, and he responded to it the very first day. But it's taken me 3 weeks to fight my way in here, and I couldn't even win the battle by myself. I had to go get the Archangel Michael to fight against the prince of Persia, who was a demonic being, one of the angels that fell with Satan. And he says, I had to get the Archangel Michael to come and pull rank. So in other words, one angel can't even do it by himself. He's got to, he needs help. So to your point, if that angel, who's, by all rights, bigger and badder than I am, if he can't do it by himself, there's no way in the world I can do it by myself either. And that's why we need a band of brothers.
Yeah, and then there's an adage that I'll probably screw it up, that, without God we can't, and without us God won't. Right? We have a role to play, as Andy was saying, and we were created for a specific reason. Yes, in our families, in our relationships, but in the battle. We were made to fill a spot there, and if we don't fill it, it just goes unfilled. And that's a big hole for the enemy to be able to get through. And speaking of war kind of clips, Darren, you have a war kind of clip that you'd like to share?
Yeah, this clip is from We Were Soldiers. The story Hal Moore tells about his men in basically the first major battle in the Vietnam War in 1965, and Hal he's been training a new type of warrior, new type of riding onto the battlefield in helicopters instead of marching or riding horses, and he is on the parade grounds and is addressing those soldiers, their families, their wives, their friends, saying, we're getting ready to go into battle. And there's some terms that he uses, and this is a true story. This is actually the speech that Hal Moore gave. But we'll play the clip, and then I'll kind of highlight a couple of those things.
Now, here in the States, some men in this unit may experience discrimination because of race or creed. But for you and me now, all that is gone. We're moving into the valley of the shadow of death, where you will watch the back of the man next to you as he will watch yours. And you won't care what color he is or by what name he calls God. They say we're leaving home. We're going to what home was always supposed to be. So let us understand the situation. We are going into battle against a tough and determined enemy. I can't promise you that I will bring you all home alive. But this I swear, before you and before Almighty God, that when we go into battle, I will be the first to set foot on the field, and I will be the last to step off, and I will leave no one behind, dead or alive. We will all come home together.
So there we have it. The things that Hal Moore talks about is, there is a determined enemy, and that's the reality of it. Satan has lost the battle, and he knows that the time is getting closer to the end, to his end, but he's not dead yet. And that's when the enemy's the most dangerous. When the enemy knows that they're the closest point to losing the battle, that's when they're the most dangerous. And that's when they're going to just let everything fly, right? We see it in human war all the time, which is just indicative of spiritual warfare. But when you listen to that clip and then you read scripture and you hear him talk about this determined enemy that they have, and you hear him talking about he'll lead on the battlefield, and he can't promise that people aren't going to die. In fact, he's pretty much guaranteeing them people will. And that's going to be the same for you, right? As a Christian man, as a Christian woman, you're going to fight hard, hopefully, and hopefully you're going to have other people fight with you. That doesn't mean that people aren't going to lose. It doesn't mean that there won't be casualties. What it does mean, though, is that Jesus is going to be on the battlefield before you, and he's going to be on the battlefield after you. And to your other point, Hal Moore didn't say, well, guys, y'all did a great job. I'm going to go take on the Viet Cong now. I'll let you know when I'm back. Because he couldn't do it by himself. He needed a team of people who were just as determined as the enemy was and knew the enemy well enough to know how to fight it. So that's part of our call, is to know the enemy well enough to know how to fight the enemy. Doesn't mean you got to study Satan all day. It means you got to study Jesus, because Jesus will educate you on Satan.
Absolutely. Danny, we haven't talked to you in a little while. We talked about a lot of stuff. Is there anything in there you want to talk about?
Well, there's the good stuff being shared, and what is in, I think in the warfare talk, and I've done that a time or two, but you're not getting out of this life without some wounds, and because the enemy is a formidable foe. But we've talked about it through both shows, is he is a defeated foe. That don't mean he ain't got some fight in him. And so, just thinking of my own life and, sharing in between shows, that, this cancer battle, call it warfare, in a sense, it's a fleshly warfare. My body has betrayed me. And, what cancer is cells that have committed mutiny, basically. And so, but realizing that, and, realizing that there's a fight to be had, and that, but one of the things I think one of the greatest weapons of our warfare, the Bible says they're not carnal, but they're mighty through God to tear down strongholds, is to celebrate with joy. That, you find joy in the things, and, one of the things that, as I began to eat again, and for those that don't know, there was a series of months that I physically did not eat. I've been on this, what they call TPN, but now we're back into, I'm beginning to eat again, so I have to sustain myself, because you do eat to live. I used to eat just because it was good, tastes good, but now it's to live, but to celebrate that, and to celebrate the victories of, okay, we're going to get rid of this bag and going to go back to the way things used to be somewhat. But to celebrate that, just is a shot in the eye of the enemy, because he didn't win that battle. And, we have to celebrate, count it all joy is what James said. I don't like that book, because James is just raw. And he's just raw. He just, And count it all joy, and that's tough. But there is joy in life, and joy is our strength. And so, the joy of the Lord is our strength, because knowing that He's in my corner, He's fought the big battle. And when Jesus was on His earth, He poured into disciples constantly, and you can hear His frustration sometimes. Oh, you of little faith, They wake Him up because there's a stormy sea, and they figure they're all going to die. And He's asleep at the boat. He gets up, calms the storm, and goes back to bed after He admonishes them a little bit. Where's your faith? Don't you realize I'm with you in the boat? And I think that's the key to what we're talking about, is to realize that Jesus is in the boat with you. And that He, is right there by your side, sticks closer than a brother. My band of brothers is close. We're close. But y'all are not as close as Jesus is. Mm-hmm. He's right there in the midst of everything. And He never leaves us nor forsakes us. Those are, words straight out of the book Darren was talking about that everybody ought to read. And I agree with him. That those are truths that we have to hold on to, because there are days when I feel so alone. But in reality, the reality of it is I'm not alone. I'm never alone. He's right here with me.
Thank you, Danny. That was pretty awesome. You just say amen. That was pretty good.
It was very good.
Yeah. Hey, Andy, so how do we fight the enemy? You have a theory from a clip, and how we apply some of it. So you want to share some of that?
So this clip is from the Patriot, and I was just watching it, did the spiritual warfare talk, and as I was going through, I knew some points I wanted to make, but this just kind of stuck out to me. You have William Wallace, his middle son,
no, not William Wallace.
I said William. Benjamin Martin.
It's Mel Gibson's son.
I'm tired tonight.
Benjamin Wallace.
Benjamin
Moore Wallace. Benjamin Moore.
He's a painter.
Benjamin Martin, the Patriot, Mel Gibson. His middle son gets killed by Tavington, the really gruesome general in the movie, and he and his younger two sons chase him down, and he's providing guidance to these sons that have never been to battle before, never. And that I don't even know that they've shot a gun, maybe a couple times or something, from what I gather. And he gives them guidance on who to take out. The officers take them out, but he tells them to aim small, miss small. And listen to the clip, and then I'll explain it when we get back.
Sounds good.
Boys, listen to me. I'll fire first. I want you two to start with the officers and work your way down. Can you tell the difference?
Yes, Father.
Yes, Father.
Good. Samuel, after your first shot, I want you to reload for your brother Nathan. Now, if anything should happen to me, I want you two to drop your weapons, and I want you to run as quickly as you can. Now, you hide in the brush, make your way home, get your brother and your sisters, and you take them to your Aunt Charlotte's. Understood? What did I tell you fellas about shooting?
Aim small, miss small.
Aim small, miss small. Boys, Samuel, steady. Lord, make me fast and accurate.
Aim small,
Well, it's on.
Yeah.
He didn't tell him how to throw a tomahawk into a guy's face.
No, that comes later.
Yeah, exactly. We'll leave that out. But, just a couple things. Agreements are what we talk a lot about. Agreements, I'd heard something similar in my previous spiritual life about negative confessions and stuff. But the idea, a lot of that was you just don't talk negative. You talk positive about your life because God's positive. And there's some truth to that, but I don't think it's absolute in the fact of dealing with this spiritual warfare and agreements that we make. The first sin came through an agreement. God's holding out on you, Eve. Mm-hmm. And that's really what we're fighting. And agreements are powerful. They give a stronghold to the enemy that you believe a lie. And what I saw in this clip was this idea of aim small, miss small. We think spiritual warfare is we just have this big, huge target and we just hit anywhere on it. We're good. But the problem is with that is to take the enemy out, you have to be precise. And if he's got an agreement that you're making, and that's the deal that's really hindering you, you need to aim small. You need to really focus in on your target and really address what the issue is. It's not this big idea. Sometimes it's hard to fight a battle when you're got the fog of war and you can't even figure out what's going on. And what I like about that is the Father gives guidance to aim small, miss small, but he's given guidance on how to fight, which is to focus in on the target, which in this case, the spiritual warfare application would be our agreements.
Yeah, and an agreement's just a thing that the enemy whispers in your ear, and it's usually a partial truth.
Yep.
And you go, oh, yeah, that's right. I believe that, which gives him access to your life.
And it feels very, very true.
It does.
But it's a lie.
It is, and he's good at it. You know, he's called the accuser of the brethren, the father of lies, for a reason, because he's very skilled at doing that.
Yes.
And one of his key things is to get us to buy into what he's saying.
Yep.
Which gives him that access,
Yep.
right? And so this aim small, miss small is saying, God, how can I focus on the battles I'm fighting within me
Yep.
that the enemy's got me under? Help me see those things, because when I can break those, then I can reach out and start to help others, right? But until then, it's going to be hard to fight for other people.
Right.
You got to first fight for yourself.
Yep.
Go to masculinejourney.org to register for the upcoming boot camp. It's coming up March 12th through 15th.